Welcome to Influence Matters, the show that talks about turning your story into impact and your expertise into influence. I am literary consultant Clara Rose, and I am your host today. Each week, I cover topics related to crafting your message for the world and building influence for your business, ministry, cause, or brand. Often, I have a special guest who's doing something interesting or amazing that I think that you might be interested in, and today is one of those days. So let me tell you about my guest today. So, driven by faith and a desire to live a life that matters, Chris has spent years encouraging others to dream boldly, act faithfully, and take ownership of the vision that God has placed within them. His story is one of perseverance, growth, and obedience, and his passion is to help others realize that with God, anything is possible. His new book, so you know I'm excited about that. It's My Business is more than a book for Chris. It's a message to anyone who has ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or unsure. And his message is simple. You have a dream, a calling, and a responsibility. If you commit to the process and trust the one who gave you that vision, you will succeed. So please help me welcome my guest, Chris Davios. Chris,
Hello,
welcome.
hello, Miss
So,
Claire. How are
I
you?
I'm good. So thankful that you could take some time out of your crazy busy schedule. I know you're even traveling unexpectedly, but you're still here. Thank you for your time today. So I read your bio, which is always very, flowery and, that's why we do it. But tell us what you really do.
Okay, what I by trade, I'm an IT guy. We serve others by helping them keep their business running, and that's kind of our business. And I'm also a very passionate writer. We just have it. Thank God for everything He's done for me in my life, and so I write about it. I talk about it, and it's kind of that's kind of it.
That's it. Okay. But you have a brand new book, like brand new. Has it released or is today release day?
Today is release day. It is
Today
available
is
today
release
on Amazon.
day.
Yes.
That's very exciting. That's always a fun time. So your book is called It's My Business. Mind your
Yes.
business and I'll mind mine, which I love because you may or may not know that I have a book called 8 Ways to Mind Your Own Business. Right? So it's the
Nice.
same idea, right? Play on words about minding your business. I love your title. So tell us about It's My Business. Tell us about the book. What can they expect to find or learn or discover in this book?
The first thing is that the dream, writing down that dream is so important because the creator God he gives us those things to do, but a lot of times we skip over it and just think, oh well, this is just a passing thought or whatever, but it's really a preview for our future. And the thing is, when we write it down, we then take it from just being a thought and we start to create that thing. When we start to focus on it and say, okay, well, this may be what I'm doing now, but ultimately, is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mhm.
So that's the critical part of just taking it from your mind, putting it on paper, so it's before your eyes.
Okay, so this book is going to take them on that journey. Is
Yeah,
that what
that's
I'm
just chapter
hearing?
one.
This book.
Chapter one
Oh,
starts
okay.
with
All
that.
right.
It starts with some identifying questions because a lot of people in this day and time, if you ask them, well, who are you? They tell us what they do because they don't know who they
Mhm.
are. And then the
Ah,
second thing
okay.
is not only knowing who you are, but understand who created you. In
Mm,
the streets, we would
right.
say, who's your daddy? And so
Who's your
it's
daddy?
kind of the who's your daddy question because, when you're a
Okay.
kid and you get in some trouble, if dad can get you out of it, that's kind of you need to know who that is.
Right. Yes, that's true. And the father is the ultimate who's your daddy, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
He's ultimately the one that gets you out of things in reality. Okay, so
Yes.
we figure out who we are, who we really are, and then what?
Then we start walking through the steps of creating that business, a lot of times when people start, excuse me, they're a little overwhelmed. So they've written it down, but then they stop because they don't understand it's a process. So in that process of taking it from dream to written down to refining it to understanding how you go from point A to point B, that's where this book guides you. And if you are an existing business owner, it shows you business principles that are, I would say, hidden in the Bible. They're there. Book of Proverbs is a great book of wisdom. It shows us and teaches us different things. And it's just written there, but a lot of times we pass over it because we don't realize it's not just a historical book,
Mm.
it's a book about life.
Right. Right. And I think part of that comes from an understanding, right, of what the scriptures really are. Because, yes, especially Old Testament is very
Mhm.
historical data, right? It's documentation, if you will, but woven into there is also, all of these great spiritual truths about how to be, right? How to live,
Correct.
right? How we're supposed to behave and all of those things, right? And then of course New Testament takes us into, Christ and why he came and and then his story, but so much good stuff is tucked in there that we
Mhm.
can relate to our own lives, including business, right?
Correct.
Because look at
Mhm.
all of the people in the Bible who they were business owners, right?
Yeah.
They worked for themselves. They worked their fields or their vineyards or whatever. They were business owners. So
Right.
I love that you're pointing out that, hey, it applies to us too, right?
Right.
These things still
Right.
apply to us. So in the book, are you pointing those out so that they can actually go to scripture and see them for themselves?
Yes, ma'am. So it gives you the reference, it gives you the kind of modern day, and then it takes you
Mm,
back to the scripture so you can see, okay, this was written here all along. Um, for instance, Abraham. When God first spoke to Abraham, he told him to leave his country, his kindred, his father's home. So in
mhm,
essence, we would say
mhm,
leave everything that you know and everything that's normal, and then go to
mhm,
a path he's going to show you. Fear most people, fear will step in and they say, well, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't
mm,
want to move
mhm,
because that's what they're used to. But prosperity comes to those who are willing to take the leap of faith. Prosperity comes to
mm,
those who's willing to say, well, let me leave where I'm at and go to a place, even though it's unknown. I know it's a
mm,
destination, it's a better place. Kind of like the children of Israel when they got ready to leave the promised land, they wanted to
mm,
stay in Egypt,
mhm.
even though they were in bondage, even though they were
Right.
slaves, because that was common to them.
Mm,
That was what they
right.
knew. And so the whole thing of let's get out of here and go to a better place was scary because they didn't know
Mhm.
where the better place was. And then as they
Well,
made
and it
their
took
path,
them through the desert, right?
yeah,
Right? It took them
yeah,
into the desert first, right? That's the
yeah.
scary part. It's not just the unknown of the future, but the desert looks pretty scary, honestly.
It is, but in the desert, you see God for who He is. You see that He can make
Mm,
ways out of no way.
mhm,
When they didn't have water,
mhm.
normally nobody hits a rock and then water just starts to flow.
Right.
But in the
Right.
desert, they experience that miracle.
Mhm.
On the
Right.
way to the desert, on the way out, no, not too many of us can say we've seen the sea open. I don't know, I can't, but we've
Mm,
just seen the sea
right.
open and all of a sudden it dry, and we're able to walk across. So
Mhm,
in that desert, in that trying place, I believe is where God shows us that He is able, that He shows us,
mm,
even though you have a large obstacle, even though you have this thing in your way, if you trust me, I'll get you through it. And so
for
in business,
sure.
it's the same thing. A lot of times, I mean, even for myself, when I was on a job, I knew I had a business in me, but I was comfortable.
Mm,
And I remember hearing the
mm,
voice of God saying, leave your job, I'll take care of you. And that was a little scary, but then when I
mhm,
remembered, well, when I went through this, he was there. When I went through that, he was there. Okay, let me take the step. Let me take the leap of faith. And
mhm,
I, s- so when I started the business, the IT company, I had no clients, no way of making money. And here's God saying, leave where you are. And I
mhm,
called my employer and said, hey, look, I'm going to start my own business. And within 2 days after calling them, I still had, another 8 days worth of notice. My
Mhm.
client started coming. So by the
Mm.
time I finished my 2 weeks notice, I had almost a $2,000 a month income, whereas when I started, I had nothing.
Wow.
And so it
Wow.
was a true leap
That's
of
God's
faith.
faithfulness right there, right?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's and I think the scary part, is that first leap of faith, right? What
yes.
might have happened had you not called your boss and said, "Hey, I gotta give my 2 weeks notice because 'cause I'm gonna start my own business," right? Nothing would have changed, right? It's like
Nothing would have
people
changed.
who say, "Oh, I wanna write a book." Okay, well, what steps have you taken to write your book? Right?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
What action have you because that's what faith is, right? It's that action
right.
step, right? To take that step. And as an entrepreneur my whole life long, I can absolutely tell
Hmm.
you that it's this is this is the way business is, right? There's an ebb and flow. Leads come and then leads don't come. And right, it's
Hmm.
not a guaranteed, right? It's not guaranteed. So your faith really makes a difference. At least for me, I'm always like, all right, Lord, now what? Right? Every time a
Yeah.
shift happens or all right, Lord, send the people you want me to do business in life with, right?
Hmm.
Send the provision, Lord. Come on, how about a little manna here, right?
Yeah.
That's business, right?
Yeah. And that's what he does. I,
Mhm,
I I remember years
for sure.
ago, when I was running the IT company and things got a little scarce.
Mhm,
I was a tither, and I said to God, I said, God, I'm doing what you told me to do. How am I going to make payroll? I don't know how I'm going to do
mm,
this. And I remember hearing him say, trust me. And it was
mm,
every day, every week before payroll, a check would come. And this went on for a
mm,
couple weeks. I want to say maybe 2 months. And then the provision started to come. Through the process, I continued to tithe and I continued to help others. And I just was like, God, like you said, the fear is like, oh God, what am I going to do? Maybe I should
mm.
go back and get a
Right,
job. And it's kind of like the children of Israel.
right,
Okay, well, we have this obstacle. Maybe we should go back to Egypt. But God was saying,
right.
no, take care of you. And
Uh,
that's the hardest part is we're having to trust outside
mhm,
of ourselves because,
yeah,
we can all do what we can do, but then there's the when I can't do it. But if we're
mhm,
trusting in our daddy, we trusted in the who's your daddy,
mm,
he's our father,
right,
he's gonna provide. And he showed it in
yeah,
the Old Testament. It's probably the greatest, I would say the greatest way of seeing his provision because he showed it so many times with the children of Israel.
mm, mhm, for
And then there's
sure.
one other
And it's
piece.
interesting. Oh, no, go ahead.
No, ladies first. Go ahead.
I say it's interesting how he there was all this provision, right? But then they didn't like the provision, right? Manna
Mhm.
again, right? Kind of thing. So they didn't like the way God was showing up and providing, but he was providing. It just didn't look like what they wanted it to look like or they thought it would look like. I always find that interesting how God does all these miraculous things and they're like, "Ah, manna, can't we have something else?" Right? I just
Yeah.
always find that funny, right? And do we do that in our own lives as believers, right? Do we're like,
Mhm.
"Where's the manna, Lord?" And he sends manna, and they're like, "Manna again?" Right? Can't I have it
Yeah.
my own way? I think is what we want, right? We want our own way, but God has a good plan, right? God has a plan. It's a good
Yeah.
plan. Okay, go ahead, what you were gonna say.
Well, when you talked about manna and how they wanted something different, that's really what it is. They wanted it their way, but that's not how he
Mm,
provides. When God
right.
provides, He's sometimes open doors even to the places of our enemies, and a lot of times we don't realize that.
Mhm.
Sometimes He opened doors in the way of a battle. There was, I
Mm,
don't remember the exact, maybe the Amalekites. I don't remember exactly who it was, but they asked Israel said, "Hey, can we pass through your land?" And the king told them no. And they asked again,
mhm,
"Can we please pass through your land? We're not going to create any problems. We'll stay here." And the king told him no. And so then the king attacked him, and in the attack, they defeated their enemy and they took their land. So the provision came
Mhm.
in this way from an attack from the enemy. And a
Mhm.
lot of times we get caught up on the haters and worried about what other people think, and don't realize God
Mm.
is still making your name great. He's still providing. He's just doing it in a way we don't like.
Mm. Right, that's it. We don't like it, right? We don't like how he's going about it. And his timing is never right either, right? It to our way of thinking, right? Because we want it now, right? Lord, if you could do this and you could do it now, that would be awesome. But it's
Mhm.
never the way we want it or in our timing, right? So
Right.
part of that is just growth, right?
Yeah. Well, there's actually a chapter in the book that deals with that, and it gives an example of
Ah.
going from Columbia, South Carolina to Sacramento, California. There's two paths you can take. One is by plane. It's quick,
Mhm.
it's easy. You go through a little bit of discomfort or TSA, you go in, and then you sit down and let someone else direct your life. So, yes, you might have
Mhm.
gotten to the place quicker, but what have you missed along the path?
Mm.
Because when you drive, now you have to
Good.
do the planning. You have to look at the roads. You have to figure out where your
Mhm.
milestones. So, for instance, just in that example, if I'm leaving South Columbia, South Carolina, and I want to go by way of I-40, I've got to go into North Carolina. So my first milestone is the North Carolina border. My second milestone is Tennessee. And so
Mhm.
by having to map it out or write it out, we know what we have to pass to get to our ultimate destination.
Mm. Mhm.
But when we're on a
And you're in
plane,
control.
right. And it's a lot easier to hear God when you're at a place, well, I know I got to get there. I'm not really sure. So we come into a place of
Mm.
true submission. God, you told me to
Mm.
go here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'm going to get there. I'm not sure if the car is going to make it. I'm not sure about any of this stuff, but I'm going to be obedient. The
Mhm.
other way is jump on a plane, the pilot's got it. "Ah, yeah, we'll be good."
Mm. Mhm.
But we don't
Which is
learn
never
those
God's
lessons.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That's never God's way, right? He wants us to
It's
do the
not.
work, right?
Yeah. And I
And
think the
you're
reason
so
he wants
right.
us. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
There's lessons in that, right? There's lessons
Yeah.
in that, right? You made that good point. There's stuff you gotta learn along the way. Mm.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's a part in the book of Proverbs, and this is actually in the book, where it says an inheritance gained too soon is not a blessing in the end.
Oh, mm,
And when I read
that
that,
is
I'm like,
interesting.
so you mean if someone gets the place of provision too quickly, on the end of their life, they suffer because they did not do
Mm,
the work and they don't understand how to maintain it.
interesting. Mm, that's good. That's really good. That's a biblical truth, right? In business, people don't think that way, right?
No.
And we have this social media society that only shows us the end result, right? Only
Yes.
shows us the the built out, full grown, fancy, right? I've made it, but not the 10-year crawl through the dirt,
Hmm.
get muddy, get dirty, get bloody, right? Truth, right? To being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
You just see these pictures of, right? Look how lovely this is, or how so instant successes, but they just don't know what it took to actually get there,
Right.
unfortunately.
Well, and that's actually in the book as well, because that's
I love
one
that.
huge issue. Yeah, that we see. We have the TV generation. You see somebody's born,
Mhm.
they grow up, they're going through high school, they've gotten married and had a kid in 2 hours, and so
Right.
we think that life's
So true.
supposed to go that way, and that's not how it happens. When life start to life, or as they say, life be lifing, you're going to have some challenges. How do you get through those
Mhm.
challenges? You learn from your past victories. Because, like when David went to go
Mhm.
up against Goliath, he had battle experience with the lion and a bear.
Mm.
He had already
True.
won against two things that he shouldn't have. Most people who fight bears end up dead. Most people who fight
True.
lions end up dead. But David came out on
True.
top. And then the other part about his story was he fought differently. So
Mm.
Saul and everybody
Yes.
else in the army who was afraid had swords and they had on their battle armor and they were afraid. David comes out, he says, "Hey, I'll fight this guy. I'm not afraid of him. You know, my God's got my back." But then they said, "Well, let me
Mhm.
give you our armor." And David said, "Wait a minute. I can't fight that way." So
Mm.
he was trained differently. And as an entrepreneur, you have to think different. You have to think
Mm.
outside of the box.
Truth.
Because Saul and the rest of the army was fighting the way they knew, the way that they've always fought. David said, "I'm going to try something different." And I would
Mm.
say that's probably the first gun we've ever had in history. He took a stone, a rock, and he
Mm.
slung it at a high rate of
Right?
speed. And when it hit Goliath in the
Mm.
head, Goliath was knocked out. Then he took the sword from Goliath and cut off his head. And there's another principle in that David spoke of his victory before he got in the fight. He
Mm.
told Goliath, he said, "Look,
True.
I'm going to cut your head off, bro. I hear
Mm.
you saying, but you don't have a covenant with God. So at the end of the day, you talked all
Mm.
that trash.
Mm.
I'm going to take your sword and cut your head off because I ain't even going to bring a sword to this battle." But he prophesied his victory. How many times do we prophesy defeat yet expect victory? So our words are
Mm.
critical.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's also Bible, right?
Yep.
Right? That our we speak life or we speak death. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I can't wait to read your book. It sounds amazing.
Thank you.
So, um, so I, of course, have to get my hands on a copy of it so I can read it. But I also noticed on your website that there is more. So it talks about your book, but then you also have some other like courses or some. I'm assuming this is. I don't know if this is group coaching, one-on-one coaching, if it's just courses. Tell us about those resources that are available as well.
Okay, so there is basically it's an online book, and we're adding some video features to it. But it also has tests. It has outlines. So in the book is what I call
Okay.
slightly interactive, but online it's a full interactive where you can actually go through what's your vision. You write it down and you type it up and then you print it off as a PDF so you have that. Um,
Okay.
there's certain answers to questions that are dealt with in the book. Online, you have the same thing, but then let's talk about this. So let's do some coaching. Let's figure out,
Okay.
you know, when you say you don't have a vision, because I've talked to people and they say, "Well, I don't have a vision. I don't know what I'm supposed to do in my life." And then you say, "Well, what do you like to do?" "Well, I like to do this." "Would you do it not, even if you weren't getting paid?" "Yeah." "Well, do you think that people would maybe pay you to do this?" I don't think so, because we don't see the value that we bring.
Mm.
And so once people start to understand, one, who they are, and two, what they've been given, because in the book of Kings, there was a lady, she came to the prophet, she said, "I don't have anything, I'm basically out of food. We're gonna eat this last meal and die." And
Mhm.
he said, "What do you have in your house?" That was Elijah. But Elijah asked another lady in a similar situation,
Mm. Mm.
"What do you have? What's in your hand?" Excuse me, I'm maybe getting them confused. But in essence, they had what they needed to
Mhm.
prosper. They didn't see it. So most people
Right.
have what they need, they just have to see it.
They just don't know, don't recognize it. Mm.
Yeah, they don't recognize it.
That's
It's
I
kinda
think
like
that's true. That's true. I think I've over the years of coaching, working with different entrepreneurs have said that so many times. So what do you do that fills you up, right?
mhm,
Recognize what do I do that drains me and leaves me feeling like, I need a nap, right? That's not for you. That's not your career. That's not what you're called to do, right? Because that's not the way God works. What do you
mhm,
do that is so fulfilling that yes, not only would you like do it for free, you sometimes do it for free, right? I often do
Yeah.
those things for free because they give me something else, right? They
Right.
fill a need in me. So those things, that's what God created me for. And then how I
Mhm.
bring that to the world, that's just something that grows with time and changes with time, right? I did
Yes.
business development consulting for years, right? Helping people start businesses. But over time, it turned into I just helped them write their book for their business,
Mhm.
right? So things change, right? And
Right.
God, that's the way God works as we grow as humans. So I love that you've created this tool. What an easy way to just explore, right? If you're thinking, all right, I think God has something else for me. I'm meant for something bigger, right? This is a
Right.
great tool, which makes my heart so happy that you created a tool because right, that's my mantra to the world,
Right.
right? Create a tool for your business, ministry, cause, or brand, right? And
Mhm.
you've absolutely done that. I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy. As a matter of fact, I would love it if you would autograph a copy for me and pop it in the mail for me. I would love to have that on my add it to my bookshelf of autographed books. I know you weren't one of my authors that I worked with, but um, I still love to celebrate that you did something that so many say they're going to do and they never do. Right? I'm going to write a book someday, and then it just never materializes. And that's because you hired someone to help you, right? You took a step, did a program, you did something about it, and you wrote your book, and you actually put it out to the world, which is almost unheard of, right? Like 2% of the people actually get around to it. So,
Right.
congratulations on the launch of your new book. Kudos to you. So, what would you like if people are watching this going, I think I need this book? I need to work with Chris. How would you like them to connect with you? You want to just go to your website? Tell us.
Yeah. They can go to ismybusiness.pro and they can sign up there. There's a free gift. There's a business. They got to register for this. Let me throw that out there. There's a business,
Sure.
how to create a business plan. And it asks the questions that a lot of people don't think of. Secondly, they can shoot an email to Chris. My regular email is chrisd at new-miracles.com. That's chrisd at new-miracles.com. And just put in the
Okay.
subject, it's my business. So I know
Okay.
that that's what they're reaching out about. And then
Awesome.
they can purchase it on Amazon. It's a great resource, only $20. But if you want to start a business, you have to invest in yourself, invest in your education.
Totally true.
And that's a critical part.
Totally true. So true. Okay, we're out of time, my friend, but thank you for being here to share this exciting journey. I love that you reached out and wanted to be on our show, and I so appreciate your time.
I thank you, and thank you for being such a great host. And you honestly helped me even in the book writing process. You didn't know it, but you did it excellent.
Good.
And I want to tell anybody if they
Ah,
want to write a
yay.
book, you need to reach out to Claire. She's got you.
Thank
Reach
you.
out to
I
her.
got you.
She
You're
can help
right.
you get your book. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. All right, guys. Once again, an amazing guest. I always appreciate their time, and I appreciate that you show up here every week for whatever reason to see what I'm yakking about or see who I have on my show. And I want to, of course, put out the invitation. If you are thinking you have a book and you need to get it out to the world, you can connect with me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group for savvy authors, or you can go directly to craftingyourmessage.com/academy because this month's cohort for the Savvy Author Academy is open. If you'd like to be a part of it, um, hop on over there and get yourself signed up. I'd love to get you started on your journey to get your book done and out to the world. Let's write your book. Be strategic, my friends, be intentional, and be savvy because influence matters, my friend.